tracking several troubleshooting paths at this time and are working to resolve the issue, so I will follow up with you in 10 minutes on the status. How copy?
Copy. You're troubleshooting the ability to upload the wind conditions for the launch escape system, and you'll update us in 10. Thanks.
And just to make that super crystal clear, if we do not successfully upload this by the time we get to LES ARM, we will be no-go for launch.
I was thinking you might be thinking that as well. Dragon copy.
So we heard some chatter there from Mission Control and acknowledged by the crew that we're troubleshooting that upload issue now. But of course, our teams will continue working diligently in the lead up to launch in hopes that we can preserve today's launch attempt. So with that, I want to step back in and talk a little bit more about the spacecraft that we are working on today. Dragon is a very versatile spacecraft. It can autonomously dock to the space station when outfitted with a docking adapter, as it is today for Axiom Mission 4. But Dragon can also be configured with hardware to support a spacewalk, which made its debut on the Polaris Dawn mission last year. And of course, in free flyer mode, the docking adapter can be swapped out for that iconic cupola, which is essentially a giant glass dome that allows for 360-degree views of space.
The crew travels in the pressurized section, which is the top portion of the spacecraft. This area allows for the transport of people and environmentally sensitive cargo. Dragon's trunk, which sits below the pressurized section, can carry unpressurized cargo when needed, and remains attached to the Dragon until shortly before re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
Dragon has played a significant role in advancing our future in space by safely transporting crew and cargo to and from the space station. There are currently 4 Dragon spacecraft supporting human spaceflight missions that have docked to the station: Endeavour, Resilience, Endurance, and Freedom. And this mission will be adding 1 new Dragon to that list, whose name will be revealed later today by our commander, Peggy Whitson. Dragon and the AX-4 crew will be delivered to orbit today by Falcon 9, SpaceX's 2-stage rocket developed and manufactured right here in Hawthorne, California. Falcon 9 is the first orbital-class rocket capable of reflight.
Falcon 9's second stage, which will secure Dragon's entry into low Earth orbit before separating, leaving Dragon to continue its journey to the space station.
Beautiful wide shot of Falcon 9 on your screen there. We've got the crew access arms still in place leading up to the Dragon spacecraft. And Falcon 9 right there in the middle is SpaceX's workhorse vehicle, having completed 492 missions since its first flight in 2010, more than any other rocket flying today. And through missions like today's, Dragon is helping lay the groundwork for deep space exploration, rapidly expanding our knowledge of how humans will adapt, live, and work in space. It's hard to believe that it's been 5 years since Dragon radically changed how humanity gets to space. After the space shuttle program ended in 2011, NASA astronauts primarily used the Russian Soyuz spacecraft to travel to and from the International Space Station. From 2011 to 2020, the Soyuz was the only human-capable launch vehicle available. In December 2010, Dragon became the first commercially built and operated spacecraft to be recovered successfully from orbit. This mission, known as COTS-1, was the first demonstration flight for NASA's Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, or COTS program. The purpose of COTS was to develop and demonstrate commercial sources for cargo resupply of the ISS. Fun fact, the Dragon that flew on that historic mission is currently hanging behind us in front of SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne. Just 10 years later, in May 2020, Demo 2 launched astronauts from U.S. soil for the first time in nearly a decade. Demo 2 was Dragon's first human spaceflight mission. The spacecraft, named Endeavour, carried NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken to the International Space Station in the first orbital human spaceflight launched from the United States since that final space shuttle mission in 2011, and it was the first ever operated by a commercial provider. Alongside the NASA missions, Dragon has also flown several private missions to orbit. In September 2021, on the Inspiration 4 mission, Dragon became the first private spacecraft to take an all-civilian crew to orbit. The following year, Dragon flew Axiom Mission 1, the first all-private astronaut mission to the ISS in collaboration with Axiom Space. The first of now 4 flights together with Axiom Space to take commercial crews from around the world to the International Space Station. Then in September of 2024, the Polaris Dawn mission delivered the first commercial spacewalk. And most recently in March, Dragon supported the From 2 and NASA Crew 10 missions. From that first crew mission in May 2020 all the way through today, Dragon has supported 17 human spaceflight missions and flown 66 crew members representing 17 countries. Overall, Dragon has flown 52 missions, carrying over 300,000 pounds of cargo to space. In the history of human spaceflight, fewer than 700 people have ever been to orbit. At SpaceX, we want to help create a future where not just hundreds of people, but thousands and ultimately millions of people can travel off Earth to live and work in space and on other planets.
Each of those missions you just mentioned represent truly significant firsts that have helped shape this generation of human spaceflight. And at Axiom Space, we've had the opportunity to provide foundational firsts as well. Working with SpaceX and NASA on all 3 of our orbital spaceflight missions to date, to fully appreciate the progress being made together, it's worth noting that our 3 flights have helped provide greater access and set new precedents worldwide for private astronaut missions aboard the International Space Station, all within the last 4 years. And I'd love to take a quick look back at just a few of these with you now. On April 8th, 2022, just over 3 years ago, Axiom Mission 1 launched aboard Dragon Endeavour on a mission that would span 17 days on orbit, with 15 days of those on board the International Space Station. Led by Commander Michael Lopez Alegria, the crew facilitated 26 research payloads and participated in over 30 STEAM events. Beyond the onboard science efforts, this mission was a pivotal moment for the community at large, serving as a proof of concept for how private operations could be conducted on the orbiting lab in conjunction with the expedition crews living aboard the International Space Station. This was the next step in human spaceflight collaboration. So this was followed up a little over a year later by Axiom Mission 2, which launched aboard Dragon Freedom.
For awareness, we're cycling the orbit tank isolation valves to equalize low flow pressure.
Dragon copy.
Pausing there for that update. And I believe that may be all for that. I'll pick up where we were. So Commander Peggy Whitson led American John Schaffner and 2 Saudi Arabian national astronauts, Ali Al-Qarni and Rayana Barnawi, on a 10-day mission outside our atmosphere with over 8 days aboard the orbiting laboratory. And over the course of their 126 orbits, they conducted 26 research efforts and participated in 20 STEAM events. This became the first private mission with government-sponsored astronauts. And last year, in January of 2024, we conducted Axiom Mission 3, which saw Commander Michael Lopez Alegria once again lead a crew to the station. This was our longest flight to date at over 21 days, covering 346 orbits. The crew spent over 18 days on station and worked with 54 payloads, conducted 28 STEAM engagements. Flying once again on Dragon Freedom, this was the first all-European astronaut mission to the International Space Station. And here we are today. With Axiom Mission 4, we add a projected 14 more days of operational flight heritage and make possible an additional 60 research payloads. Each of these flights builds on the one that came before it, certainly, but it also is meant to open up access to low Earth orbit just a little bit more, providing opportunities for more nations and organizations than ever before to participate in human spaceflight. It's the fact that now 11 nations have been represented across our flights that speaks to the success of missions like these.
We visited with the crew of AX4 to get their thoughts on what our collective future in space looks like.
I believe that SpaceX and Axiom Space are serving as pathfinders for what commercial space is going to be in the future.
It is like a paradigm shift in how we used to think about space. And companies like SpaceX, Axiom Space are doing things that entire countries have done in the past.
SpaceX is a crucial partner that allows us to go to the International Space Station. In general, space is a big team sport, and that collaboration offers more and more possibilities to explore. In our case, this is the Dragon capsule and the Falcon 9 rocket. In the future, it might be different solutions.
It has been 5 years now that SpaceX has been sending humans to space. We are using SpaceX technology because we know that it's safe and reliable, and that it will bring us safely to the International Space Station, and not only going there, but also coming back.
The end goal for Axiom is to have that mission and presence in low Earth orbit that will enable scientific research, technology demonstrations, and expand what we are doing in space. These precursor missions, like the Axiom 4 mission, are just the tip of the iceberg for expanding in low Earth orbit and way beyond even.
Like we say, that space has space for everyone, and this is what it means. And I think that is the essence of spaceflight.
I love Peggy's comment there that this is really just the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely.
The International Space Station may not last forever, but there's a lot in the works today to enable even more research and more capabilities off-planet.
Of course. And so for Axiom Space, missions like AX4, as we've said, not only create opportunities for our customers to accomplish their goals in microgravity, but they are also invaluable in developing our teams and our systems for our own future Axiom Station.
When the time comes and the International Space Station reaches the end of its operational life,
Dragon SpaceX for awareness, we are continuing troubleshooting on the wind file upload. It has not been resolved yet. Troubleshooting is continuing.
to follow up on that comment we had earlier.
Dragon copies, continuing troubleshooting.
We were going to keep working this issue in the lead up to launch. So as I was saying, when the time comes and the International Space Station reaches the end of its operational life, SpaceX will help deorbit the orbiting lab. NASA awarded SpaceX a contract to develop the U.S. Deorbit Vehicle, or USDV, a modified Dragon designed to guide the station through a controlled reentry into the Earth's atmosphere to ensure that upon reentry, the station comes down in the intended location and does it safely.
But before that happens, there are plans in place where Axiom Space will utilize the remaining operational lifetime of the International Space Station to facilitate a transition to our own commercially owned and operated station. Selected by NASA in 2020, Axiom Space is the only commercial company to attach its privately developed modules to the International Space Station. And here's what this transitional timeline looks like at this point. Our first step will be to attach a module to the station that we call the Payload Power Thermal Module, or PPTM. This module is designed to receive any critical hardware, payloads, or tools from the ISS that the international community may want to continue to utilize. Then that will undock, detaching from the space station, and rendezvous with our second module, known as Habitat Module 1. Together, these two modules can support 4 crew members and enable a host of manufacturing and research efforts in microgravity. From there, the station will continue to build out over the following years until we have built out an entire Axiom Station, as you see it there, with a second habitation module, an airlock, the open windows down below, the Earth Observatory, and the research and manufacturing lab. All of this, once fully assembled, allows Axiom Station to enable customers to forge their own future in low Earth orbit.
Speaking of our future in low Earth orbit, let's get a status update from John I about today's mission.
Ronnie, we're just inside T-minus 53 minutes. We're continuing to count down. Obviously, the thing we're waiting to hear from over the countdown net is the troubleshooting going on with the wind upload of data to the Dragon spacecraft. We heard just a couple of minutes ago, they're still working on it. We have to have that on board before we get to essentially crew access armor track and then launch escape system armed. So we're going to continue to monitor that as we get a little bit closer. Now on the Falcon 9, good news, the chief engineer pulled the team. They don't see any issues right now. They'll be doing their final pull at T-minus 45 minutes or so to go into propellant load. Now, we talked about Dragon. They're working no other issues other than getting the wind file uploaded. The good news, weather, the weather officer T-minus 1 hour said phenomenal. So we'll take that all night long. And then finally, around the launch pad, flight danger, hazard areas are clear, both around both pad 39A as well as tonight landing zone 1, because the first stage is coming back about 9 miles south of the launch site. So currently everything continuing to look good except for that one issue we're working on, Dragon. We'll keep listening in, we'll bring an update, we'll keep our fingers crossed, but we're coming up on T-minus 51 minutes. Everything continuing to count down, hopefully to an on-time launch just less than an hour from now.
Attention Falcon launch operators. The propellant load and launch go-no-go poll is open in step 11.87 of 1.160.
And at just under an hour to go until launch, we welcome in all of those tuning in by way of NASA's live stream that have just joined our launch coverage of Axiom Mission 4. We're joined now by Sandra Jones with NASA Communications from Mission Control at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Thank you for joining, Sandra.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, the team is prepared and ready to support today's launch. This attempt comes after NASA and Roscosmos discussed recent repair work in the transfer tunnel at the aftmost segment of the Orbital Labs Zvezda service module. And now we are all looking forward to the Axiom 4 crew being on board Space Station soon. We'll provide a full Space Station status update in a few minutes, but know we need to bring everyone up to speed on today's activities and the launch status. So for now, back to you, Ronnie.
Thanks, Sandra. We'll hear more from Mission Control in just a few minutes, but we do want to take a moment first to introduce everyone to the crew of AX4. Aside from Axiom Space Commander Peggy Whitson, each crew member represents a return to human spaceflight for their nation after more than 40 years.
And starting with our commander, today's mission is led by Peggy Whitson of the United States. There is simply not enough time to cover her entire resume, but to give you just a few highlights, Peggy has earned degrees in biology, chemistry, and biochemistry. She was the first female commander of the International Space Station. She has spent over 675 total days in space, during which she logged 60 hours across 10 spacewalks. She is also a two-time commander for Axiom Space, having previously served aboard AX2, and she was just inducted as a member of the 2025 Astronaut Hall of Fame. So congratulations and well-deserved, Peggy.
Next is mission pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of India, whose call sign as a test pilot is Shooks. Representing the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, Shooks is also an astronaut designate of India's inaugural human spaceflight effort, Gangayaan, featuring an Indian-built rocket and spacecraft. He was commissioned into the Indian Air Force Fighter Wing in 2006 and achieved the rank of Group Captain in 2024. He has over 2,000 hours of flight experience aboard a variety of aircraft.
And our third crew member is Mission Specialist Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski of Poland. He is representing the European Space Agency as a project astronaut, coming from the reserve class of 2022, much like Marcus Want, who served as a mission specialist on AX3. A scientist by trade, Sławosz has earned his Master of Science with honors from Łódź University of Technology in 2008. He holds a second Master of Science and a graduate engineering diploma as well. He also spent 2 years as the engineer in charge of the world-famous Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, beginning in 2018.
And rounding out this crew is mission specialist Tibor Kapu of Hungary, who represents the Hungarian to-orbit astronaut program, or HUNOR. He graduated from the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, earning a degree in mechanical engineering, followed by a master's degree specializing in polymer technology. In 2023, Tibor emerged as one of 4 Hungarians selected from a pool of 247 candidates for the HUNOR astronaut program.
And together, they are the crew of AX4, Axiom Space's 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. Today's flight represents the return to spaceflight for 3 nations, but it also highlights the growing opportunities for nations and entities around the world to conduct meaningful work in low Earth orbit. And right now, as you see there, Peggy, Shuks, Sławosz, and Tibor sit inside Dragon. There are colleagues and students and space enthusiasts the world over gathering to cheer them on here at the start of their mission. And so we'd love to share just a few live streams that we're getting from launch parties in India and Poland. And here we are. First is a wonderful shot of a school in India. These are the students and teachers at the Naberam Hansre English School in Jamshedpur, India, gathering together to watch Shubhanshu lift off. How exciting.
Now we have great views from Poland. Crowds are beginning to gather here, including children from Polish schools, to witness Sławosz's launch on the planetarium's dome. The event was organized by the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology, the Polish Space Agency, and the European Space Agency. I love seeing these views from around the world.
It's truly incredible. The joy, the excitement around the world.
You have a go for Section 5, and when ready, report go for launch. For awareness, we are still troubleshooting the wind upload file. I will have a few more words for you after you confirm your go for launch.
Wilco, in work, Section 5. And SpaceX, Dragon, we are go for launch. Section 5 is complete.
Copy, Section 5 complete. All right, for awareness on timeline, we have to have the launch escape system armed by T-minus 37 minutes. So we are going to take this as far as we can. What I'll need from you guys is a very fast turn on the commanding for launch escape arm, provided we get to that point. I'll copy.
Copy. Understand LES has to be armed by no later than T-minus 37 minutes, and we will be prepared.
Copy that.
John Innsbrucker back here at the webcast desk. We're inside T-minus 45 minutes. Right now, we just heard from the Dragon team. They can take it down to about T-minus 37 minutes.
This is the launch director on the countdown net. The poll is complete, and the team is ready for crew access arm retract and propellant load and launch, pending resolution of the winds upload issue. For all operators in MCC and Hangar X, both controls are going to lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and will remain in that state until the LES system is disarmed. All operators are to remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until the ND confirms successful disarming of the launch escape system following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators shall advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Okay, we're at T-minus 43 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. You've heard the SpaceX launch director giving final instructions to the team. We have cleared our propellant loading pole.
Crew access arm retraction has started.
And now we've heard, and you can see on the screen, crew access arm is pulling away from the Dragon spacecraft. This is going to take about a minute and a half to retract all the way. Then we'll get confirmation it is in the launch position. The next step after that is going to be the crew, close the visors, confirm that, and then begin launch escape arming. As we mentioned, we want to get launch escape arming finished by about T-minus 37 minutes, which means we've got about 5 minutes to finish troubleshooting the wind upload to the Dragon vehicle. Now, currently on Falcon 9, all conditions are go on the launch vehicle. That was the poll that we, and the instructions we heard from the launch director. Dragon's working its one issue. Weather looks good. Range is ready to support.
Crew access arm retraction complete.
All right, that is the confirmation. The arm is back in the launch position. Next, they'll give the crew the command to go ahead and close and lock their visors. Now, I think right now we're probably waiting just a little bit longer. We want to give the Dragon team as much time as they can have before we move into the sequence where we then have the crew arm the launch escape system. Now, if we do get through this and we solve the upload issue, at T-minus 35 minutes, we will begin propellant load. Once we do that, then there's no chance to hold the clock. We would have to complete the countdown and launch on time, or as we have mentioned during the webcast, we do have another opportunity tomorrow about 24 hours from now. We're inside 41 minutes, continuing to troubleshoot the problem. View of the crew inside the capsule on the right-hand side. See the status bar on the bottom and the clock counting down. Now, if we get the go, we'll hear then the commands to begin the launch escape system arming. The crew will confirm about a minute later that they're armed. And that'd complete the major events before a propellant load would begin at T-minus 35 minutes. Views of Falcon 9 and Dragon on Launch Complex 39A on the Kennedy Space Center. Everybody is clear of the launch pad, clear of the launch complex. The danger and hazard areas have been confirmed clear. And we're ready. We're just waiting to find out whether or not we're going to be able to continue forward in the countdown. We should know that answer within the next couple of minutes. Now, if need be, if we do have to hold the countdown, that would be a scrub for the night. Right now, as we talked about earlier, the space station orbit is passing over Kennedy Space Center, getting everything aligned.
Dragon SpaceX wind upload is complete. You are go for Section 6, close visors and arm launch escape system.
Visors are closed and arming launch escape system now.
All right. That's good news. We've got the winds uploaded. Closing the visors, you can see on the screen. We're also going to begin escape system arming. It's going to take about 50 seconds once they get into it. We will then get confirmation that the launch escape system is armed. And from there, we will move into propellant loading coming up in 3 minutes at T-minus 35. So we passed a major milestone, everything looking good. And it's kind of quiet here right now. Everybody's kind of tense. We're waiting to see how we'd go, Paul. But with that, it looks like we're doing good in the timeline.
We have taken a sigh of relief. Extra breath here. Smiles are returning. But with that.
Launch escape system is verified armed.
Very good. With all of those call-outs and the progress now being made again towards launch, let us tell you more about their destination, the International Space Station. And with that, we'll send you to NASA's Johnson Space Center and Sandra Jones for all things tracking about the mission.
For the start of propellant load.
Thanks, Paul. I'm here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where teams are working around the clock to monitor the Expedition 73 crew and systems aboard the orbiting laboratory. Today, this team is ensuring that the station is ready to receive Dragon and the Axiom 4 crew. Private astronaut missions are an important component of NASA's strategy for enabling a strong and competitive economy in low Earth orbit. Unique to Axiom 4, NASA is collaborating with the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, on 5 joint science investigations and 2 on-orbit STEM demonstrations, which help showcase the strength of international collaboration and the shared commitment to expanding access to space. As the International Space Station nears the end of its operational life, NASA plans to transition to a new model featuring commercial space stations to maintain its leadership in microgravity research and ensure a sustainable access to low Earth orbit for the benefit of humanity. So let's take a moment now to learn more about the International Space Station and NASA's commercial future in low Earth orbit.
For more than 25 years, NASA has used the International Space Station to advance the nation's scientific and exploration goals, completing research not possible on Earth. With international partners, the orbiting laboratory has supported more than 4,000 science investigations and served as a test bed for technology demonstrations and human research to better explore the Moon, Mars, and beyond. Through NASA's investment, the United States is operating multiple commercial cargo and crew transportation spacecraft, and now is developing fully commercial space stations for low Earth orbit. With transportation and destinations, NASA's efforts are opening opportunities for private industry to use space for new markets that could benefit from microgravity. The International Space Station is the blueprint for international partnerships and commercial opportunities in space. As NASA looks to buy services from private industry, the agency looks to the future, exploring the secrets of the universe for the benefit of all.
And you can learn more about NASA's commercial efforts at nasa.gov/commercial-space. From Mission Control Houston, we are standing by and ready to support tonight's launch. So for now, we'll send it back out to Ronnie, and Paul in Hawthorne.
Thanks, Sandra. And so things are looking good on the launch pad. The teams are continuing to progress towards launch at 2:31 a.m. Eastern. We'd love to take a minute and just take a look back at what's happened already this evening to get us to this point in the countdown. So for context, we want to say this crew has been living in an isolated quarantine bubble for the last 4 weeks, having reported to quarantine on May 25th. In that time, they have shifted their sleep regimen to adjust their circadian rhythm to match those on board the International Space Station. And over the last few days, they have finessed that further to be ready for today. In fact, their wake-up call was set to 6:30 p.m. earlier yesterday, I should say, depending on where you are. But then about 4.5 hours prior to the scheduled launch time, the Axiom Space ground operations team drove the X4 crew to Kennedy Space Center, where they shared a brief moment with loved ones before officially being handed over to SpaceX for today's launch. This handover event has taken on quite a few forms over the years, but there's always something truly special about creating a moment, even just for a few minutes, in the midst of all of this operational choreography, to pause and share a moment with loved ones. And there you see the team did just that in front of the VAB before getting into the Teslas and riding out to the Falcon Support Building to be ready for launch today.
Absolutely. After that T-4 hour briefing, the SpaceX team helped the crew suit up at our Falcon Support Building. You got a video on your screen that was recorded earlier today of the crew stepping out in their suits and waving to everybody there for the first time before getting in our 2 Teslas to caravan over to Launch Complex 39A. They do ride in pairs over to 39A, often accompanied by members of our launch closeout team, who you see there as the crew celebrates that they are on their way over to launch. Once they reached the tower, they ascended up to the Dragon spacecraft and were able to make one last phone call before signing the White Room wall. Here you see the crew walking across the crew access arm. Getting their boarding passes handed to them and checked by our closeout team. You'll notice that Peggy Whitson's is gold because she is a frequent flyer with us here at SpaceX. And then once our crew ingressed Dragon, we completed suit leak checks and comm checks before rotating the seats into the reclined position for launch. Love these videos of them up in the white room there. You can see those signatures on the wall behind them, hugging the closeout team before ingressing the capsule. Then from there, that is the same team that closes the hatch and seals everything in the preparation for launch. Right now, we are still waiting on those final weather checks coming up, but prop load has begun. So all of that brought us through the confirmations we've been listening to, the check-ins, confirming that the crew arm is stowed, and of course, as we were listening so intently for earlier today, that our launch escape system is armed. With that, we are just over 31 minutes away from today's liftoff.
Incredible. That white room is got a lot of history in it already.
And lots more to come, which is really exciting.
Yes, we are just adding another chapter to this storied location. That 39A has got so much history already.
So, of course, everything about today is really timelined down to the minute. As we were talking about earlier today, the crew wake up all the way through launch. We have this kind of precise choreography that is key to our launch site execution. Each of the calls we're hearing, the visual cues that we're seeing, and that we're acknowledging to you who are joining us from around the world, serve as critical synchronization.
Stage 1, cryohelium loading.
There's confirmation there that we're loading the cryohelium on board stage 1 of Falcon 9. And each of these milestones are critical synchronization points for both the ground and crew teams. As they say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's hard to believe that it's been 5 years since Dragon radically changed how humanity gets to space. After the Space Shuttle program ended in 2011, NASA astronauts primarily used the Russian Soyuz spacecraft for travel to the International Space Station. Until 2020, Dragon was the Russian Soyuz spacecraft was the only human-capable launch vehicle available. Meanwhile, SpaceX's Dragon was being developed, and then in 2010, it became the first commercial spacecraft to be recovered from orbit. In fact, just for fun, because it's cool to know, the Dragon that flew on that first commercial mission is actually the one hanging behind us here in front of Mission Control in Hawthorne. Since then, Dragon has supported 17 human spaceflight missions and flown 66 crew members representing 17 countries. Overall, Dragon has flown 52 missions, carrying over 1,000 experiments and over 300,000 pounds of cargo to space.
And each of those missions represents a host of firsts that have helped shape this generation of spaceflight. To fully appreciate the progress being made together with SpaceX and NASA, it's worth noting that Axiom Space's 3 missions to date have helped provide greater access for nations and researchers, setting new precedents for private astronaut efforts aboard the International Space Station. And AX-4 adds to that growing flight heritage.
After a successful liftoff and orbital insertion, the AX-4 crew are set to rendezvous and dock with the International Space Station tomorrow. They'll spend approximately 14 days aboard the orbiting laboratory, bringing the occupancy count up to 11.
And over the last 10 months, this crew has been working with instructors to learn every system they will be working with on station. They have studied and practiced every experiment, reviewed and rehearsed every event, all to maximize that time in space. Collectively, this crew is undertaking the largest quantity of research efforts of any Axiom Space mission to date, with over 60 research activities on their timeline, representing 31 different countries. Missions like these continue to expand what is possible and set the stage for even greater opportunities to come.
Then, at the conclusion of their time on station, the crew will participate in a closing farewell ceremony and begin their preparations for the journey back to Earth. As we've mentioned a couple of times, that'll be about 14 days from today.
Each mission to the International Space Station is rooted in singular unifying purpose, to explore and learn together as a team. And that is one of the things that I absolutely love about human spaceflight. The International Space Station is a symbol of what can be realized from international cooperation and collaboration. And so while this particular mission may represent the goals of 4 specific nations, today they are launching as one crew, one team. And in that spirit, this crew created a mark to represent their shared effort together. The AX4 mission patch is something that Peggy, Shukla, Sławosz, and Tibor will wear proudly for the rest of their lives. But so will thousands of people who've worked tirelessly to contribute to this mission.
The mission patch for Axiom 4 was created, as you mentioned, by the crew, not just to mark their space flight, but to symbolize the idea that space is for everyone. Anchored by the centrality of the Earth and flanked by a diverse set of national flags, there are several intended meanings woven into this design. For instance, the 7 stars represent the 7 continents and point to global inclusivity.
The 4 white lines ascending from the Earth to the International Space Station symbolize the physical journey of this mission, and together appear to make panes of a spacecraft window, much like the view the astronauts will have from Earth orbit. And the overall gem shape of the patch is a reminder of the precious responsibility we all have to our planet, to cherish and to protect our homeworld. And in addition to the mission patch, another favorite tradition of human spaceflight is the zero-G indicator. To celebrate their unique bond, the AX4 crew chose a baby swan as the zero-G indicator, which they've named Joy. And today, we have the opportunity to have our very own Joy joining us to help us keep an eye on the gravity levels here in Hawthorne. And so far, pretty stable.
Yeah, all systems nominal, I would say.
Very, very nominal. Yes.
So as we await our T-0 in a little bit more than 25 minutes, our ground operations teams are doing a final series of systems checks to make sure both Dragon and Falcon 9 are ready for launch. Let's take a look at what the Ascent portion of our mission today will look like.
Start of Stage 2 cryohelium loading.
Brief announcement on Stage 2 loading. Once we hit T0, we're going to watch Falcon 9 and Dragon lift off from historic launch pad 39A and make their ascent. At about 43 seconds into flight, Falcon 9's engines will throttle down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket, or what we typically refer to as max Q. Now, it's worth noting that shortly after we hit max Q, the vehicle will go supersonic, faster than the speed of sound.
Once we're through that period of maximum dynamic pressure, we throttle up our Merlin engines again. From there, at about 2.5 minutes into flight, we have a series of 3 events that happen in rapid succession. The first is main engine cutoff, also called MECO. This is where all 9 Merlin engines shut off in preparation for stage separation. Stage sep is when the first stage detaches from the second stage, with the first stage making its way back to Earth for landing as the second stage continues on its journey with the third event.
Now, SES-1, or second stage engine start number 1, that's where the Merlin vacuum engine lights up and propels the second stage along with our AX4 crew and Dragon into orbit. Now, as Stage 2 heads into the targeted drop-off orbit, Stage 1 will execute 3 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the boost back burn, where 3 of the Merlin 1D engines reignite and then shut down. That heads the first stage back to Cape Canaveral.
The second burn, or the entry burn, helps to slow the first stage down in preparation for entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. About 70 seconds before Dragon reaches orbit, Falcon 9 will land back on Earth. The landing burn will bring the vehicle's speed down rapidly in order to land back on land near the launch site, shortly before 8 minutes into our mission.
And then a little less than a minute after that, at T plus 8 minutes, 48 seconds, the second stage will cut off its 1 Merlin engine that was ignited right after stage separation. That concludes a burn that lasts just over 6 minutes to get into orbit, but we'll wait to hear confirmation of insertion into a good orbit. Then Dragon and the second stage begin preparations to separate Dragon. About 51 seconds after we get into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with the 4-person crew drifting away in Dragon, moving away from the second stage. Once Dragon's a short distance away, it'll begin checkout of the Draco maneuvering thrusters. That'll make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage.
The nose cone deploy sequence will initiate just before T plus 12 minutes and finish around T plus 15 minutes, exposing Dragon's docking mechanism in advance of arrival at the International Space Station. Speaking of which, we should hand it back now to Sandra Jones at NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston, Texas, for a quick update. Sandra?
Thanks, Ronnie. The space station team here in Houston is focused on the critical systems of the International Space Station, all continuing to function as expected ahead of launch. Everything is looking good, and the station will be ready to receive Dragon and the Axiom 4 crew on Thursday. After Dragon is fully docked to the orbiting laboratory, the team here in Houston will assist the Axiom Space and Space Station astronauts with leak checks as they work to open hatches on both Dragon and inside the station's pressurized mating adapter. We expect hatch opening to take place approximately 2 hours after docking. Once the Axiom 4 crew arrives at the International Space Station, they will be greeted by the Expedition 73 crew, which includes NASA astronauts Nicole Ayers, Anne McClain, and Johnny Kim, as well as JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takoya Onishi, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Kirill Peskov, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zubritsky. Flight Director Heidi Brewer is on console right now, leading the flight controllers for launch this evening. And with Mission Control in Houston go for launch, for now, we'll send it back over to Sonia at Kennedy.
Thanks, Sandra. To dive into some of the science highlights, I'm joined now by Axiom Space's Chief Scientist, Dr. Lucy Lowe. Lucy, thanks for joining me here at the desk. With so many science portfolios that are going to be accomplished. There are more than 60 from more than 30 countries. We can't cover it all. Give us a high-level look of what this portfolio looks like.
Yeah, so happy to, Sonia. So this mission is chock-a-block, jam-packed, full of really interesting and exciting science. We have everything from human research, understanding how the human body reacts to space. We have some really fun life sciences experiments looking at growing plants and all kinds. We have some physical sciences. We have lots of technology demonstrations. And my favorite, lots of science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics outreach events.
All the STEAM things.
Exactly.
So we've had great success with AX1, 2, 3. Do we have any return payload flyers for AX4?
We do. We have our partners at the University of California, San Diego and the Sanford Stem Cell Institute flying their cancer cells in low Earth orbit for the 4th time with Axiom. So this team is actually looking at how the cancer cells respond to space. And on this mission, they're actually testing a newly approved drug that's just about to enter clinical trials.
Amazing.
So really exciting.
So let's take just a brief look at each of the country's portfolios. Let's start at the head.
At the top. Okay, off we go. So we're going to bring on our willing participant who is going to model, our lovely assistant who is going to model one of the experiments from this portfolio. So Israel here is wearing a functional near-infrared spectroscopy cap, which has optodes in the top, which can actually look at how blood is moving around, which is a correlate for neural activity. So it's a way to actually monitor brain activity in space. And what the team is doing is looking at these signals and how they're going to collect the data. And they're actually creating what they're calling a brain-computer interface or a brain-machine interface, which could be really interesting and useful not only for future exploration missions, but also for applications back here on Earth. So, for example, for rehabilitation after neurological disorders.
And which country's portfolio is this from?
This is from ESA and the Polish Space Agency.
Amazing. So what is ISRO doing? What's their portfolio look like?
So ISRO has a very, very busy portfolio. So Shooks is going to be doing lots and lots of research throughout the mission. So their team is going to be looking at cyanobacteria and microalgae, and they're going to be looking at how these could be used for food or for fuel or for potentially even life support systems on orbit in future. The team is also looking at muscle cells. They're seeing how muscle cells respond to access to microgravity. So when the human goes into space and there are changes, physiological changes that happen very quickly that can impact the muscle cells. And so the team is going to be looking at some of these changes to muscle cells in space and then applying that understanding not only to developing countermeasures for future crew, but also to take that learning and then understand more about diseases that might affect muscle wasting back here on Earth.
I wish that this was on so we could see if anything was lighting up with Israel. Thank you so much for helping with this. I'm going to turn this way and I'm going to get the Dyros B project. Israel, thanks for joining us here, showing off the headset there. This is fascinating. While I manipulate this, like they're going to do in space, which basically makes me an astronaut, I'm going to also hum Bach.
You should do. So this is a project from Hunor flying this research. And this is actually looking at fluid dynamics in space. So we've put this tape on for artistic purposes. Tibor will not have this disco tape on orbit. But in space, what is going to happen is this will be surrounded by a ball of water that's going to have microparticles embedded in it. And as a video is recording and he's turning the handle...
To music.
To music, exactly. The tempo at which he's turning the handle is going to increase, not too much.
Okay.
as he's listening to bark. So he's going to know exactly how fast to turn the handle. And so the insight from research like this is going to help us understand some of the fluid dynamics around large bodies such as Saturn in our own solar system.
So it's not just for fun.
It's not just for fun. It's all very important.
If there is a researcher who's watching now and says, I've got research that I want to get into low Earth orbit, how do they do that?
They come talk to us. Go onto the website, get in touch, and we'd love to fly more research like this and do more cool science in space.
Such cool science. Thank you so much, Lucy, for making it just understandable for the general public. And we can't wait to see how it all plays out over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. And, you know, the AX4 mission is very exciting, and the families and friends want to be here, but some of them couldn't. So we want to share with you now just a little taste of the friends and family who are cheering on the entire AX4 crew. Peggy, Shooks, Swa, and Tibor. A great group of teammates who are doing great things for their countries. And here are the folks who have been supporting them all along the way.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough.
On behalf of the Axiom Mission Operations team, we're wishing you a safe, productive, and fun mission. Go AX4.
I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Hi, Shooks. We're super excited about your visit to space. Come back, triumphant. We'll all be cheering for you the whole while that you're there.
I got facts over tracks. Listen, that's getting slow, speaking fast. I can roast, I can gas. Think I'm okay and last, but I don't know what that can erase all the past and the
The flight is our inspiration.
Hi, Sławosz. You're about to do something truly out of this world. We are all here rooting for you.
Go chase the stars and make the mission unforgettable.
Wishing you all the strength, courage, and wonder as you embark on this extraordinary mission beyond our world.
Szia a tévéken! Sok sikert kívánunk a küldetéshez, várunk haza! Nyugdíjra nem lesz semmi!
We are so proud of you. See and make your dreams so true is just amazing.
Enjoy the adventure. Earth is waiting for you.
Go Eagles, go!
Go Eagles!
Hi, Shooks. Wishing you a safe and inspiring journey beyond the stars. You make us proud. The sky is no longer the limit.
We are incredibly proud of you.
Go to space.
Have fun.
Make history.
Come back safely.
We are waiting for you.
Hey, Shooks, you're gonna be doing just great in space. Come on, man. Rock on.
So remarkable. Thoughts in my head, a collage and they spread. I'll be great one day, going off of my meds. No, I'm not
Greetings
giving
from
up,
India.
no, I'm not giving in.
Wishing
I
you
will make
all
it
the
to
very
the top,
best.
taking off and
To
knowing
the
that I gotta
crew,
make it. I'm
Godspeed,
living every day to taste it. I'm patient,
spend
but
as
my
much
mind
time
can
as
hardly
possible
take it. I'm
to
chasing a
look out
dream
of the
that I've
window.
never several ages of
Have a
making.
fun
Running
time,
kingdom for
guys.
the taking. Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
Thank you so much. What great commentary from Lucy and all of those portfolios coming together. We're excited to see this team get to work on station. And as we know, spaceflight has a rich history of traditions. We've spoken of about a few, from the zero-G indicator to others. We started this next tradition for AX2, and we're excited to continue that today. It's a special thing to be named as a commander to anything, but being the commander of a 4-person crew that has completed months of training and is about to defy gravity and set sail for the International Space Station, it's truly out of this world. Peggy has some thoughts she wanted to share here in this moment, just a few short minutes from launch. And here's Peggy.
As commander of the AX4 mission, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to our journey. This mission to the International Space Station would not have been possible without the hard work of so many incredible teams. First, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the teams at Axiom Space. Their talent and dedication shines through every unexpected challenge, the countless hours of work, and every task at hand to ensure the safety of the crew. The team's determination and commitment to achieving the highest standards inspires me every day and reminds me why I joined the Axiom Space family. To our partners at NASA, your expertise and support have been invaluable, ensuring that we are fully prepared to live and work aboard the space station. The comprehensive training programs provided by NASA have given us the skills needed to thrive in the unique environment of space. Thank you to SpaceX for providing the cutting-edge technology and reliable transportation to take us to space and bring us back home safely. The hands-on and in-depth training have ensured that we understand the Dragon systems thoroughly and confidently. We also owe